Howdy friends, it is I, Stench, your favorite Void associate. Last we spoke, I had just destroyed an Imperial city, took all their resources, and I was about to use it to build my own little base here on this ice sheet in the North Pole. Well, enough yapping about it, let's get started. First things first, for our little structure here, we are going to be building a small room to contain all of our batteries, as well as all of our storage shelves. That way we can actually begin bringing all our resources in, and thus they won't go bad out in the weather. As we were doing so though, Dog decided that this place could use a name, and I agree with you, my pet, and thus we would actually call it the Velvet Fortress. Because obviously it's going to be very well fortified, and for the dog and I, it shall be very comfortable. Although this name will be quite ironic for the Imperials and others that we capture and bring here. While still on the topic of comforts though, we immediately began building 4 or so bedrooms with all of the steel that we had acquired, using wood for our auto doors as we have the least of it. Now we can continue our work without worry that our pet the dog will freeze to death or that his accommodations are not properly met with a nice comfortable bed. He should be quite alright now. But as our dog sleeps, I began to notice that we are completely out of steel as well as many other resources that we require, and thus we are going to need to go out and get some more. Lucky for us, even with the complete collapse of the planetary government, we left a few of their settlements and cities to beg for mercy and also to strip them of their resources. Though I must say, I found it quite hard to find enough room to park the ship. This'll have to do, I suppose. But as I was about to begin harvesting the city of its souls and resources back home, we had a deep space miner fall from orbit. A waster by the name of v.o.i.d, a very fitting name, fell just in our icy midst, and the dog went outside to retrieve him. Meanwhile, I had already began my extensive search throughout the city. I wasn't all that concerned with what I found within, of course, as I was just planning on stripping it all down to the bare bones of steel, plasteel, brick by brick, yada yada yada, all the boring shit, but my boredom would quickly be cured when I began engaging in firefights with some of the local law enforcement. Ah yes, my poor patriotic Imperial patrons, how nice of you to die for absolutely nothing. Well, except to put a smile on my face, that is. Ooh, and to give me some of your delectable drugs and other paraphernalia, I should say. I'll say the shattered empire of this planet is pretty dog shit for the most part, as I've said before, but they do brew up some pretty strong psychedelics. Now that the city's defense force and even some of its civilians have been taken care of, and we've had our fill of their nice paraphernalia, it's actually time for us to begin deconstructing every single structure that we can, before making our way back home to drop it off, that is, of course. Now, utilizing the resources that we had acquired, I ended up building some advanced solar-powered generators, but I had not taken into account the fact that the North Pole is extremely dark for the majority of the year, and thus we'll have to revisit that little issue later. As for now, we have much bigger issues at hand, like returning back and forth to the city over and over and over to bring the resources back to our little ice sheet base. Luckily, the city had plenty of biofuel refineries for us to go about making chem fuel for the ship, so no biggie. Given all the machinery and the fact that many of their buildings were already made of steel, steel ended up being our most abundant resource, and thus the resource that we used to expand our base further. We ended up building on a food storage area, a gigantic-ass storage area. We had also got an infinite chem fuel generator on the inside of it, and as you can see on the left, we ended up building 2 advanced wind-powered generators. By this point, we had threatened to cut v.o.i.d's head off with our bare hands somehow, and of course he joined us because he's a little submissive puppy. And I had also decided that our dog's service to us, he's been so loyal, it is actually time to make him an official member of the team, so we arrested him and actually began to attempt to recruit him. I wasn't actually going to make him a member of the organization, but this way he won't try to run away all the time. But now, my friends, we really get to the meat and potatoes of the base itself. This is going to be our surgical room. I hear what you're thinking, large, isn't it? Well, my friends, this isn't exactly your average hospital. This is going to be for our prisoners. The first of what is sure to be many of the organization's official organ farms. Now, of course, we're not monsters. We want to ensure that our patients are going to be nice and comfortable and ready for surgery, so of course we would end up building many things to keep them calm and comfortable. Some examples: a large flat screen television with 2 nice couches, fun, hip, and cool arcade machines to play on, and even a chess table to try your wit and to test your skill. But these are only the beginning of the fun recreational activities that we plan on building. Now, I do realize that this base wouldn't exactly pass any of the organization's standards, and thus we needed some proper defenses. I would begin doubling up on our steel walls, as well as adding many an embrasure with turrets behind them. During this time, we had also tricked our pet into thinking that he is now part of the organization and one of us, even though he's not, but don't tell him that, of course. Now, just to keep him on the up and up, we decided to change his name from Dog. Think of it something of a promotion. His name is now going to be Desconocido. Now, of course, this name suggestion comes from our good friend Sir Ignacio. Initially, for this miniseries, I wasn't going to take any name suggestions, and I still probably won't, but this one time I'm going to make an exception. And I don't know, maybe a few more times, we'll see. I should also mention that to make sure our defenses are above and beyond the expectations of the organization's standards, we built some pretty large machine guns. Perhaps we'll even get to see them in action. Oh, speak of the devil. It would seem the scraps of the Empire have decided to band together and try to attack us. Too little too late, I'm afraid, my friends. Maybe if you tried this an episode or 2 ago, you would have died a little bit slower, but whatever. Our machine guns immediately began bombarding this group of Imperials with bullets. Unfortunately, though, because of the great distance, they were managing to hit them, but very little of them were dying. Or should I say, fortunately, this didn't happen. For you see, my friends, not only did I want to engage them in the icy, snowy blizzard hand to hand and kill many of them myself, but I also wanted to ensure as they began running away that I could run up, punch them in the back of the head, and we could actually collect many of them for our organ farm. One of them went down pretty easy, but the second, I didn't know my own strength, and I ended up bashing his head in with my fist. Oopsie daisy. Not to worry though, as we did end up taking a couple of soldiers, and that's a pretty good start to an organ farm, I'd say. I believe we'll begin with a couple of kidneys just as an appetizer. Now, that of course is just simply a metaphor, as we're not actually going to eat these organs. No, we are going to keep them on our shelf ice cold from the elements outside for now. No doubt the brass upstairs will give us quite a commendable reward for these puppies, and of course for many more organs that we take, which we hope to get plenty of, but how will we attract more enemies here that we can take and imprison? Ah, just when you have a problem, sometimes it begins to solve itself. It would seem that we have a deserter from the Empire wanting to join us here, no doubt hearing about their complete collapse and how we've decimated them, so of course we've accepted. Now, the deserter himself we would end up arresting, as I thought we could harvest his organs, but then as the large raid of Imperials came, I thought, we would really like to have more organs, and those people have organs as well. I think you see where I'm going here. We, as well as our pets, would actually begin engaging the enemies, though they had to back up a bit as I began to finish them off all on my own. Sometimes it can be quite depressing being the strongest thing on the planet, when even gigantic barrages of rockets can't kill me. Hey, stop, it tickles! We continued chasing down the cowards as they began to flee, although some of them were left behind and perfect for our organ farm, of course. Though I think we may have to give them a little bit of time to heal, as I'm guessing many of those livers, kidneys, and lungs are probably pretty bruised up. You know what, on second thought, there's really only one way to know for sure, am I right? Not to worry, little ones, we won't take anything, too vital, I guess. As for the deserter known as Packus, now, like I said, initially I was going to harvest his organs as well, but he did bring us a gigantic onslaught of potential patients, and thus I thought we did owe him the common courtesy of allowing him to be enslaved by us. You're welcome. Of course, though, the meals that we've stolen from the settlements and cities that we've decimated are only going to last us so long, so I began using the rest of our resources that we currently have in our possession to go about building some hydroponics basins seasons and a growing room for food. A large populace of kidney cows, as they're commonly known throughout the galaxy, is going to need plenty of food. Preferably rice in this case. Alrighty folks, step right up, as we've had one of your kidneys, but now folks, we need a lung from each of you. Ah yes, now this is quite the little organ pile, isn't it? So many in fact that we could roll around in them if that's something we chose to do. Look, even I have standards, okay? The organization has set up a few new settlements around our organ farm. That way we can exchange our organs for anything that we like within their grasp, which is basically damn near anything within the galaxy. So we began loading up all of our organs into our ship and we would start to fly out. But before we did that, it seems we have a war merchant from one of the Neanderthal tribes. This was a bit strange initially because most factions are none too happy to see us, but it would turn out that this little village of Neanderthals is apparently allied with the organization, perhaps even worshipping us as gods, or doing this so that we don't murder them all. Either way, I'm cool with it. Anywho, the organ trade begins. Toodaloo, friends. Luckily, they were in pretty close proximity, so it was easy to make it there and back home with some of our new items. We exchanged all of our organs for a corpse gun, a ghost implant, a Void Tech AI implant, as well as a Void Tech stomach. Since our dog is as loyal as he is, we decided to implant all of these new enhancements into him. He's hardly anything close to an associate, but with that new AI implant, he's pretty darn close, I'll say. Perhaps he may actually join the organization yet, but only time shall tell if he's truly worthy enough. Now that we've taken a good majority of their organs, I feel it's time for us to finish off our kidney cows. You can just call me the old heart bandit, baby. But you might be asking yourself, where are you going to get more kidney cows for more kidneys, lungs, and hearts there, Stinch? Not to worry, friends, for the world is our oyster. Until next time.